Okay, we're live. I think should be.
Cool.
Hello, hello, and welcome to a casual Friday that is held on Saturday.
Because you're such a party animal.
Yeah, that's me. You know me. It's all I do every day. Nah, but uh,
Yeah, you've got big issues.
what is that supposed to mean?
Nothing. We'll talk with those about those at counseling. We didn't do this in public.
Oh shit. I think. Let me know if like you guys can hear Cred as well. I think it should work, but just want to make sure before we like banter back and forth. Oh shit! I got rug pulled by a block. We hear
Can they
you
hear me?
both. It's good. Nice.
Oh, thank God. Okay.
I was
Cool.
like, yeah. Do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So we've got casual Saturday because Friday is, people like Don are in short supply in Germany. So when it's a weekend and a chance to get loose, he's always on call. So, we work around these things. We have Saturday instead. It should be fun. Well, it's also been a while since both of us sat down and kind of chatted. It's also been a good opportunity to catch up and, yeah, just do market stuff. Brought to you by FTX, of course, the formerly Blockfolio bit of FTX. You can trade crypto without being liquidated in your first week. That's where we recommend you go for those endeavors. FTX Pro is all the futures, structured products, etc. Just FTX is the formerly Blockfolio app you should get for your spot trading and portfolio tracking. Nice to have that, and it's not as confusing as it seems at first. Just get the FTX app and life is easy. So that's all from us on that front. Now, a few things to talk about. I actually want to start with the news, go through some headlines. It's been a while since we've done one of those. And then you can talk us through a couple of your trades, your trade management, rebalancing, etc. I can do the same. That'll be a very short section. And then I've just got some kind of theses and, ideas that I want to kind of run past you. I think and then maybe answer some questions towards the end as well.
Sounds good.
Cool. First things first, we click on the Binance article. I'm sure this is like a full Binance crackdown, right? If you consider the multi-month kind of headline stuff, central banks and banking partners, in the UK and all across jurisdictions criticizing them for licensing. And there's just been a lot, right? Now, in response, they've been quite proactive, although some might say too little, too late. Withdrawal limits are way down, leverage is down, and now it's mandatory KYC on all users. The market shrugged this off completely. It didn't give a shit, just like it shrugged off the 2 BTC to 0.06 daily withdrawal. It just didn't care, which is pretty strong. That the people buying on the way up, it literally reminds me of like 12 to 14K. Didn't Binance get like hacked or something? Or there was like an exchange hack around that time and the market just completely gobbled it up. The price action we've seen with all the Binance headlines, bearing in mind this is like the biggest crypto exchange, it's pretty impressive, showing of relative strength. And I think more generally on the regulation itself, this is super standard, and I think it's the direction we're headed in. And if you want to listen more about that, we spoke to Jake Chavinsky on our podcast about what the central exchange regulatory landscape looks like. And this is sort of just the beginning, arguably.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's just gonna get worse on that front, but then again, like the more regulated the market becomes, like the less scams we're gonna see, the less, like the more clear everything is going to be, whether something's actually like okay and whether it's not. Whether you like that or not, I don't think matters at all. It's just gonna be like that in the future.
But bro, scams go up so much.
That's true. Speaking of scams, like XRP, for example, did fucking hell.
Allegedly, right?
Allegedly, alleged scam, yeah. But yeah, I don't mind it. Like, I would actually like the space to consolidate around solid projects. It's just really, really hard to kind of say, okay, who chooses which project is like solid and which isn't, and kind of sucks if the governments kind of make that choice for us, or like in general, like can you trade with leverage or can you not? That kind of like it takes freedom away from people, which I don't like. But then again, like in general, having all the ambiguity cleared up is actually something I'm very much looking forward to. So it's like a double-edged sword in a sense. Just means we're kind of growing up as a market, right?
You think it's bullish how the market didn't really give a fuck about any of the Binance headlines?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like we are at 50K price wise, and I think like that's like the last resistance that you have before full moon. So it's a little bit dangerous to be too bullish here. But then again, like I really don't see a point in being bearish as long as we're trading above 40K. And that sounded weird when I said it at like 42, right? Because that's just so close by. But now that we're at like 50K, that's actually quite the drop. And I still think that like you don't want to be shorting above 40K. If it breaks down below 40K again, I mean, then it's fucked and we go much lower. But as long as that's not the case, I don't see the point. And like you said, with the news being just shrugged off completely, that's something I usually wouldn't want to fade, even if we had a resistance like that. It's more of a, okay, if you're like long on stupid leverage kind of deal, like close some off or close some out. But yeah, wouldn't short. Just my view anyway.
Yeah, makes sense. Speaking of exchanges, Coinbase, I'm looking at the 500 million balance sheet article. That was really interesting. I think Brian announced it quite soon after he actually got board approval. But, Coinbase has been given the green light from its firm to purchase more than 500 mil worth of crypto on its balance sheet. I don't know whether they've started buying yet or how they're going to buy. It's just going to be a TWAP type of thing. And, Brian Armstrong said, I expect this percentage to keep growing over time as the crypto economy matures. The funny thing about this article is that this news came out like very soon after another piece of news by the block. I think it was on the same day. No, it came 1 day later. So, the other Coinbase article about the crypto winter.
What? No, I missed it.
Oh,
what was it about?
I'm going to actually, you can open Discord, right? If I DM it to you now on like another monitor or something.
I can actually just put an ad in front and then do it. Yeah. Send
Okay, there you go. I mean, you've got it. It's one of the articles.
Is it?
In our messages, Coinbase CFO says the firm has stockpiled billions to prepare for crypto winter.
Yeah, that is.
Okay. So the funny thing is, there's a 1 day difference in those two articles, right? So on the 19th, it comes out. Wait, is that the same day?
Yeah, it actually
it's
is.
the same. Okay, even better.
Wow.
It's literally the same day. So at 10:41, Coinbase CFO says the firm has stockpiled billions to prepare for crypto winter, and people interpreted that as bearish, right?
Yeah.
Even though it might not be like reflective of the immediate conditions, the fact that Coinbase is sitting on like a bunch of cash, some people interpret that to be like a market signal. And the amount was 4.36 billion. And then 10 hours later, the article comes out about they're ready to purchase 500 mil, which sounds really bullish, and it is, especially if it hasn't hit the market yet. But in terms of like Coinbase kind of net exposure, that's quite a small amount of the cash it's set aside for crypto winter. Could you kind of see the argument that I'm making?
Yeah.
If they've got like 4.36 billion in cash and they get approved for 500 mil, like percentage-wise, that's not really that much to redeploy of that fiat stack.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if you look at Saylor and how big he's gone, it's not really comparable, right? But I mean, it's quite a bit still, considering that, I mean, it's still a company, right? And they still need to have cash on hand. But yeah, this kind of stuff is really like way out of my ballpark. I think like something like this, like buying like 500 million, if they have like that amount of cash ready, seems like reasonable. But then again, like most stuff in crypto doesn't seem reasonable to me. So if this sounds reasonable, it's probably unreasonably low in crypto standards.
You think they're just going to pump the VC bags they have, like from A16Z, etc., like a bunch of altcoins we've never heard of?
I mean I mean they've launched, they've kind of like launched so many new altcoins. It's really hard to guess, like whether they want to like lift people out of their old bags or if they just want to pump new stuff. Pretty difficult to guess.
But you'd hope it'd be like Bitcoin ETH, given its treasury, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it should be. Like that seems to be like the way everyone goes for. But then again, it's Coinbase. Like no idea if they just like Maybe they just do like an index or something. I could see that be the case, but
Dude, back in the day, Coinbase listing was like the craziest thing ever. Like just a rumor would send your coin on like a 10x. Now it's pretty meaningless, and even for a time it was bearish. Like you
yeah,
get listed on Coinbase and that's it. It's over.
that was actually like quite the paradigm shift. If you like look at Request Network, for example, like that was a recent Coinbase edition, right? And that pumped like 6x. And then you've had other stuff being listed during like the bear market, and that actually dumped right immediately afterwards. I mean, if I remember right, Dogecoin actually dumped immediately afterwards too. Where is it? Yeah, they listed Dogecoin at like 75 cents, and it went all the way down to 15, pretty much straight off the bat. And that has changed now. Like when they list stuff nowadays, usually goes up at least a little bit. So something to watch out for. I mean, the altcoin pumps have been pretty nice. It's a little bit of like a back and forth, I feel like. Like the moment people actually start chasing, they get wrecked. But like you buy and it goes up 2x or 3x. And then people start chasing and the chasers get wrecked. And then another coin starts pumping. It's not as easy as you'd think in like a bull market, or like at least in a altcoin trendy environment. If you look at like most of these coins, they're up quite a lot, right? ADA, for example. But there's also like in between quite the drawdowns, right? 40% just out like on the Bitcoin pair, out of basically nowhere. The same thing is true for any of these. Not as easy as you'd think if you're not just blindly holding and hoping.
Where do you fall on that debate? Like when it comes to not chasing altcoins, but even just buying altcoins, it's like, oh well, this is really strong. Are you in the camp that, you know, coin A is strong, I'm going to buy coin A? Or is it, okay, coin A has shown strength, I'm going to buy coins B and C because hot ball of money or correlation or trickle down, whatever?
No, I think like buying another coin because like one is strong is cope. What you want to be doing is like let's say you see strength in a coin, right? You write that coin down and then you wait for like Bitcoin to do anything. Like for example, like when Bitcoin went down to like 44k support, all the altcoins like shit the bed, and then you kind of buy the dip on those instead of buying like the weaker altcoins, trying to chase those up. Because what happens usually is like you have a coin that pumps, right? And then you're like, okay, this is up too much, and then it pulls back when Bitcoin does. And what you do instead of like waiting for that pullback, you look at this and you're like, this is up way too much. This coin that went like this hasn't really pumped yet. I'm gonna buy this, and you buy it here before like the pullback happens on like the good coin. This pulls back just as much, and it takes forever to like recover. You're kind of underwater in like a shitty coin, and this just goes and makes new all-time highs. So I think like the better way to do it, or at least like the one that I have like had more success with, is just like looking for the strong ones and either chasing them up, which is in my opinion fine to do, or just waiting for that pullback. And sometimes, like let's say you wanted to chase it up here at the start of the move, and then you're like, no, I don't wanna. It goes up much further and then pulls back. It might still be above like where you wanted to buy in the first place, but it's still worth like taking that trade. Because it might be better risk, or it might just be like you getting your head out of your ass, being like, okay, this is actually bullish, I want to be buying. So for me, makes more sense to kind of look for the strong ones, because there's a reason why they're strong, right? Like people buy that stuff because they like it, and because maybe there's something coming. For example, like we talked about Request Network earlier, and that pumped way before the Coinbase listing. And if you buy into strength there before the announcement happens, you get to sell into the announcement. So oftentimes you don't want to be looking for like the weak ones.
Okay, so insider trading is an edge. I got it. I think we did that.
I mean, 100%. And like that's crypto, right? It's fucking wild. The entirety, like pretty much every kind of coin listing has been insider bought or sold. Like there's only a handful where that isn't the case. And it's not only that, like announcement get insider bought all the time as well. And then you see strength in a coin that shouldn't be strong, and then you can kind of figure out that there's something coming. And it obviously sucks when you have to buy the backs of people that are scummy enough to insider trade. But I mean, that's what we're kind of dealing with. So you do what you gotta do.
Yeah, I agree. I find that unless you've got like a really clear thesis or like an edge in terms of, well, this coin went up, and so these lower market cap, parts of the same ecosystem are going to go up, or the next rotation is like super, super clear. Unless you've got that type of read, I think just if you've got momentum continuation setups on the strong one, that's usually going to be the better trade. Because look, even if the momentum continuation, like if you're wrong, you're probably going to be wrong on the other coins as well, right? So you might as well punt the one which has already shown evidence of strength. And a lot of the time, the setups are better anyway. Maybe it's that, or I just have like 2018 PTSD where all the altcoins are just getting delisted to zero, and it's like, would you buy this? And it's just something just kind of trickling down before getting delisted for being a security. So waiting for strength isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world. I agree. It's a lot of cope and a lot of like psychological inability to buy high to sell higher. You just
it's basically like being scared. You don't want to be like
scared of heights.
Yeah, it's like you don't want to be the guy buying the top, so you buy something that looks like the bottom, but there's a reason why it's like looking shitty, right? And it's the same thing. Like the reason, like the one coin has a good reason for looking strong, and the other one has a good reason to look weak, and then you're buying the weak one because you're too copy to kind of deal with the fact that you just missed the bottom on something. And,
for sure,
is what it is, but. Sometimes like there are some rotation plays. Like let's say you see a coin in the gaming sector start mooning really heavily, and it's something that's been happening for the last few weeks. Then it's pretty obvious that people are going to look for like stragglers in that system, right? In that gaming system, in that sector. And that is, I think, something that you can do as long as you get a good setup, because then you have like, it's not only you buying, it's a bunch of people that are in the same boat as you, coping together with you. And that's much better than just being like, okay, this coin looks really shitty and everything else looks good, so I'm just going to buy the shitty one. So there is a way in which you can do it properly. But the funny thing is, like most of the time, the stragglers that you're buying are still going to be underperformed by the strong one. So we can still take that trade, but more often than not, you're actually still gonna be like super angry because you missed the bigger mover. So.
Yeah, and it's likely that sector kind of lives and dies by the big movers. If you want to get a sense for that, might as well punt that one rather than the straggler. But yeah, I mean, if you've got a thesis, basically TLDR, if you want to buy something because it's strong, buy it, or at least your baseline position should be to buy it, and then only look for rotations or correlation trades if you've got either really good setups or like some sort of really coherent thesis about why the next move is going to be in the laggard and not the leader. But yeah, buying the leader generally makes sense. And yeah, the thing you said about altcoin relative strength is always really important. You look to see what holds up, what's green or less red when the whole market's red. And CMS had the really good analogy of like a like this plastic beach ball being held underwater until you just gotta let it go and it pops. That's pretty reasonable when trying to visualize what that looks like. Solana was a really good example, and that's no surprise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Solana's been fucking crazy.
Yeah, we'll touch on it. Do you have the NFT article?
Yes.
Do you own any NFTs?
Besides yachts and I've got like a handful of other like gifts, but that's basically it. Nothing like valuable. Honestly, like I've never been big into digital collect items, whatever do you want to call it. I don't own skins on any games. I don't do any of that stuff.
Haha, noob.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even have like a profile picture for like any social. I didn't have one for like my Crypto Donald for like the longest time. I just used like one random one I found on the internet. Like I've never really cared about that stuff. So it's like, it just isn't up. Like it's not something I'm really interested in. Just something I get bored real quickly with. So the long or like the short answer is no. And I don't really mind it. Like it's weird. I'm happy for the people that are playing the NFTs and making a bunch of money, and I have like zero cope about it, which I find weird. It just feels like stocks pumping basically, where I'm not coping because they're pumping because it's not my market. I'm just like indifferent to it, and that's NFTs for me. How about what about you?
I've got yachts. I have fucking yachts. I've got a bunch of like OnlyFans simp type of yachts. Like
What?
aubergine, peach, tongue type of
Wow.
all of those like crappy combos. I've
Oh,
got
you
all
got
of them.
rug pulled by OnlyFans.
Yeah, I
Getting...
did get rug pulled by OnlyFans. That's an unfortunate quote. I've also got a bunch of like COVID yachts. I've got like bat soup, and then the person being ill, and then the bat soup, and the person in a mask. Like, I went really kind of creative with it, as more like as a joke, and because it was fun to buy them. But no, I don't have like I'm not gonna make it because I don't have NFT exposure. When I'm back at my desk, I might consider punting some of this stuff. But I either have to fully ape in or fully like spend a couple of weeks researching and building a thesis. And I'm not sure which one's better at this point. Like, I think for the market where it is now, aping in might be better. But it's never been. I don't tend to travel that far out on the risk curve. I can see, like we spoke to G Money, NFTs, like blue chip NFTs, becoming part of a balanced crypto portfolio. And I also think, as per the article, fractionalization is kind of really important and will be a big part of that sector going forward, because so many of those blue chip NFTs are just, they're priced at a point where single ownership is like a pipe dream for a lot of people. Like, I saw an ETH rock go for what, like 400,000 today, maybe more. I think it was 500K
so
plus. And so, if ETH rocks become blue chip, single ownership is probably out of the picture for a lot of investors. So fractionalization is, I think, going to be a really important part if we do build out a blue chip type of sector within NFTs. I still think it's early even for that. But I like the value prop. Like, I like the idea of essentially like digital proof of not being non-LARP, right? Or like social capital or flexing, whatever. That, a lot of the current use cases, and I fully acknowledge there are more advanced use cases like wrapping and all this other stuff. That's with a W, not an R, that we spoke about with G Money. So I'm sure the future use cases, and even the ones that are being developed now, like in gaming, etc., are much more utility based. But especially given where we spend a lot of our time, like on Twitter, social media, etc., they definitely have a really strong value prop for social capital, etc. The only other thing I'll say is, so yeah, I'm bullish on the sector. I just don't know fucking enough about it at the moment to throw money at it. And I'll also say there's probably a bunch of intellectual property stuff that we haven't thought about at all. Yeah. Like crazy angles that will only come out in like really weird litigation, maybe in like a year or two, or as more copyright notices get dished out and big projects which don't own the IP get shut down, like all sorts of weird shit like that. I still think we have some sectoral growing pains ahead, but the core value prop, even the super basic use case of social capital, makes a ton of sense to me, and made sense ever since CS:GO skins were a big thing.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the thing that I see in the NFT space, especially in the like crypto Twitter profile picture, whatever kind of scene, is that if you add up what the market cap of all of those is, right? If you just like, if there's 10,000 pieces and then you add up like the floor and how much they're worth altogether, it's actually like a staggering market cap, which I think I'd be surprised if that maintains for like the long term, at least on the levels that they are right now. But then again, like if you gave me the option to short it, like I think that's a stupid idea. And if I liked it, I wouldn't even care about that, because like at the end of the day, if you like something that comes out and is new, even if it's expensive, right? You just take the leap of faith. For me, it's just like I couldn't be like, I'm more annoyed by stuff that I have in my wallet that I don't want to be there than like I'm happy about like having an NFT sitting there.
Hey man, if your wallet's too heavy, it's annoying you. You know where to send those bills.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm legit like just sitting there looking at it, being like, I want to sell this just so like I don't have it in there anymore. I don't know. It's just like some weird stuff. Like
also, context for the audience. I'm throwing you under the bus here. Lou minted a nice 3 duck yacht for the duck, and the duck acquired it. and also now is this debating in his mind, kind of selling it if OpenSea is, if three repeating Yats are going. And I'm on the counter argument saying you can't sell what's effectively a present, you prick. And I also made the firm declaration never to buy you anything again for any presents or birthdays.
The thing is,
because you'll fucking sell them if they annoy you.
I mean, the thing is, I'm not gonna use it. So what I want to do is just give it back to him, right? I bought it at cost. I want to give it back to him. Just I don't really care. I don't care about making money with it. It's just annoying me sitting there being wasted.
Sell him the markup. Do it.
It's just it's sitting there. I don't need it. I don't want to use it. So it's it feels like a waste, right? But yeah, I'll see what I do with it.
It's your bearish Yats. Just
no. I legit think for some people that might be a really cool thing, and price-wise they could go up a shitload. It's just for me, it's not something I'm gonna use, and that's something I've never done. Bought stuff that I don't really need. It's not something I'm particularly interested in. It's just just gonna sit there, and someone else would be more happy with it.
I mean, for a lot of people, when they walk into a car dealership or a watch store, they typically don't exit that thinking, well, this is going to appreciate in price now, or this is my thesis. It's oh, well, this looks cool, and other people will think it looks cool, and there's a signaling mechanism to it. I think a lot of the current NFT use cases have a very similar function, people with punks, penguins, bored apes, etc. You get the community aspect more so than you would with physical stuff, but you do get all the flex benefits as well, which is really cool. And I think if you could long narcissism, that's a trade I would definitely take with crypto people.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's a pretty fucking strong thesis.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, have you ever seen me flex on Twitter, in any of with okay?
Yeah, but your net worth is $20. I've seen the bank accounts.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. It just seems like a fucking. I don't know. It
feels
like
American
bad
as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but in general, it feels like bad RR, right? To just flex too much, because then what do you gain from it? If you don't have anything to sell, you're only gonna get the negative out of it, because
dude hits you on the back of the head at the next Bitcoin conference. You wake up in a van in Romania.
Without fucking fingers. Seems like a fucking bad deal to me. But maybe that's just me. I don't know. It's just for me, it's just uninteresting. I'm just here to kind of shoot the shit.
Well, makes sense. Speaking of shooting the shit, last article from the block. It's about Robinhood. This to me is crazy, right? Crypto grows from 2% to 41% of Robinhood's total revenue in the past year. And I think even within that, Dogecoin specifically played a massive amount of their crypto revenue. So crypto went from 2 to 41%, and Dogecoin, I think, played a huge part of that 41%.
Oh, Jesus
I think,
Christ, yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's
I don't think you sent me the actual article, by the way.
I must have. Hold
on. Sorry about
that. Yeah, I can literally see it.
Okay, give me a second.
Crypto grows from 2%. Yeah, it's there. Wow. It's the most recent one before you said works.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about the ad stuff, guys. Blockfolio's getting their
FTX, formerly Blockfolio.
Yeah. Exactly, yeah.
So yeah, this to me is crazy. I think when you think Robinhood, you just think of all those GME, AMC apes, right? But the crypto coming up to half its revenue, a lot of which is Dogecoin driven, to me is insane. It also says when we think about meme coins, just be oh yeah, haha, Dogecoin, it's going to go up a lot, then it goes to zero, etc. Meme coins are legit making businesses right now, or at least in the last quarter they did.
Yeah, I mean, it's mental how Dogecoin has become the basically cryptocurrency for the masses, right? I mean, everyone knows Dogecoin as much. I think most people, I don't think there's a big difference between people knowing Bitcoin and Dogecoin anymore. And I think there might actually be more retail people that know Dogecoin than know ETH, which is completely crazy to me.
Is that good or bad, or do you think it doesn't matter?
I think they're going to get dumped on at some point. It's just a question of when. It's not particularly good for the ecosystem, because then you have a bunch of people in speculative coins that don't really do anything. But then again, it's not bad, because we all started out with the meme stuff. I mean, I like I started out with Dogecoin back in 14, 15, right? And I stuck around, right? I eventually switched over to Bitcoin, traded some shit coins along the way, and now like I'd say I'm like a crypto native. And if that's the route everyone's gonna take, then so be it, right? If that, like most people in every cycle have been buying the Doge top. I don't know, and I don't want to say where it's gonna be, but if that's the kind of ritual that you have to go through to stick with crypto, I don't really mind it. Just yeah, it just sucks to see when people go like way too hard into these memes and then just lose it all. But yeah, someone has to, I guess. Like whenever you have like these kind of speculative coins that come up, that everyone knows are just like going up because there's hype behind it. Someone's gonna be buying that top, and someone's gonna like have like a really shitty time afterwards. But it's just how markets work, I guess.
Do you see that news about like Elon's family office guy and Vitalik joining this Doge fam? Dude,
Yeah.
I can't even finish the sentence.
Yeah, it's wild. I honestly think. I mean, I do you remember when we discussed this at like below 100 sats, where I said like I think Elon bought just now.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? Yeah, I literally still think that. Like that candle that we talked about back then, I still think like he bought, and he's just pumping his bags basically.
I mean, if you're like positioned for a bull market, wouldn't Dogecoin be like part of your core / net longs in terms of just like community, potential like random announcements that make the price moon in a bull market, memes, all that type of stuff? Isn't, you know, if you've got like a watch list of stuff to press the green button on in an uptrend, doesn't Doge deserve a spot? Kind of seems hard to argue against.
Yeah, I think it's pretty expensive for like what it is, which sounds like complete cope and maybe is, but like if you think about it, like for example Solana, right, where you have like an entire like you have something where you're gonna get like an entire ecosystem. Maybe in a bull market, like stuff like that just jumps up, and then there's suddenly like an entire ecosystem. Maybe it disappears in the next bear market, right? But no one really cares. And that's not going to happen on Doge, right? You're just going to get like Dogecoin, which does nothing, has like huge inflation. And that's it, right? The only kind of appeal is, okay, retail might be buying it. But then again, like it's already in the top 10 of market caps, if I remember correctly, right? So if you're looking for like large upsides, I think there's better ways to kind of get them. If you're just looking for, okay, I want to have like a bunch of everything crypto, I think you should have Dogecoin, because I mean, it's going to stick around. It's probably going to dump at some point, but it's going to stick around.
So Don blue chip crypto portfolio, Bitcoin, ETH, XRP, Dogecoin.
I honestly think like I personally wouldn't want to hold Dogecoin anymore at this point. Like layer ones seem much more interesting. Like if you look at, I would rather hold ADA than Dogecoin. I think there's more upside in there.
So you're really bullish ADA.
I mean, chart wise, it's been really good, right? But like fundamentally wise, I'm not really bullish on most of the stuff in the top 100, besides like the handful of stuff. But yeah, I just trade whatever goes up, and I think like Dogecoin's not been performing too well, even though like we've had news like the one that you mentioned just now with like Elon Musk's family office, whatever, like that came out, everyone like chased it, and now it's just kind of like chilling there doing nothing. So there have been other coins that have been wildly outperforming it, and I think that's gonna continue. So
speaking of those, do you want to run us through your XRP trades, like entry? You sold some, re-entered, management. It'd be kind of cool to take us through the motions.
So my thesis was based basically on this, which I mean, it's kind of funny because it's so clean, and I saw no one talk about it. Which is like I rarely pull the trick on XRP. I only do it when like I see really good setups that no one talks about. When I see good setups that people talk about, it's usually just a fade again. But whenever like you get a good setup that no one talks about, that I know anyway, it usually goes up. But like we've had like support, like cycle support back in December 17, right? Had that used as support again in 2020. As resistance in here, and then I was just like, okay, it's probably gonna flip here. It just makes sense, right? It had like this undercut off the range, probably gonna go back to like the range high, if not higher. And yeah, I just saw this look good on the lower time frames, and then I just bought, and like immediately it just completely went and against Bitcoin. And Bitcoin hasn't been performing too well, too poorly in that time frame, so it's like been like pretty decent trade. I took actually we hit resistance here, and I think like the more significant resistance is quite a bit higher up, but we hit resistance and kind of started retracing. And what I wanted to see was like it pumping, it retracing like for 1 or 2 days, and then immediately with the next one just kind of engulf the entire bearish action that happened before. And instead what we got like was just like a weak bounce. So like I sold half of my XRP, still have like the other half. And I mean, against Bitcoin it looks really good. Against USD, a little bit less so, because I actually sold into like somewhere in that green candle here, which isn't like, it's above that right now. But yeah, I'm still hoping that my other half of the trade is gonna go towards like my target, which is on the dollar pair, which by the way looks really good still. And I mean, I don't really see a good reason to be super bearish in that. Is like in the $3 to $5 range, right? So I just took some off to make sure that like if the entire crypto market takes a tumble, I can rebuy significantly if the setup still stands, and to be kind of like liquid, right? And to not have to worry about the position too much. I don't know if you've ever had that, but like whenever I buy too much, like I buy something because I'm super excited, and I look back on like my buys and I'm like, okay, this is a little bit heavy. Like I shouldn't have done that much. And that was
I
kind of
do
the
that,
case.
but only for my losing trades.
Yeah, I sometimes have it for my losing trades, but like in these cases, I usually do it with like stuff that I really, really like. And then once it initially pumps off of a really good setup, I usually take some off just to kind of get it out of my head so I can just do other stuff, right? If the position's too big, you're not gonna be chill about it. You're gonna have to kind of look at price all day. So I was quite happy with just taking some profit into like the $1.20 range, a little bit below that. And then just taking the rest wherever it takes me, right? If it goes back below $1, gonna cut it. If it goes to like $2 or $3 and then above it, I'm just gonna start TPing. And that's kind of my plan for XRP. Pretty happy with that. And the good part is that I actually like took part in like the Bitcoin pump by just being exposed to like some of these altcoins, which is always a nice bonus, right? Yeah, and that.
Are you in vet still?
No, I actually sold that like pretty meh. Like I pretty much, where is it? I bought it pretty nicely into the run up, into the explosion upwards, right? And then I actually traded this back and forth and with XRP I did the same thing, by the way. Like I sold on the USD pair, I sold 130 and rebought 119 somewhere, and then that's basically where I cut the rebought part again once we got back up there, because I was like, I wanted it to pull back a little bit and then go, and it pulled back further and didn't immediately go. So that was kind of my XRP trade. But with WeChain, I did the same thing. Sold pretty much the high, rebought like too early, and then sold into like the pump again. Just to be able to focus on the coins that look good. And the problem that I see right now with altcoins, and that's why like I cut a bunch of them against like all of my trades were based on Bitcoin pairs, right? And the reason why like is that Bitcoin is at an inflection point right now, and it was like, it's the same thing. Like it was at an inflection point down here, it's at an inflection point right here too. If it breaks this resistance, I think altcoins are gonna take a beat down, and then I'm gonna be buying that dip, right? And if it breaks that support, if it would have broken that support, altcoins would have taken a huge dump as well. So for me, like this is too close to breaking out in either direction for me to kind of be like, okay, I want to hold my XRP BTC longs like full size, or my WeChain Bitcoin stuff. So I just took profit on those, and holding the rest, which I still hope are gonna go up, but Yeah, with altcoins, I usually like to jump in and out if it doesn't immediately do what I wanted to. And XRP actually like did immediately do what I wanted it to, so that was pretty chill. Has been a while since like the older coins have moved like that.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. As I said in the tweet, I'm like on holiday and coping, basically. I decided to take a break when we were in that long ass range.
Yeah.
Like in the middle of it, I was like, I'm just gonna move to another city for a bit and see some friends, whatever. And I actually got a technical entry signal on that 19th of July green candle, the engulfing one at the bottom. And anyone who sat through any of my YouTube videos know the setup where you have that bottom support at 32K. We closed below it on the weekly, and then you close above it the very next candle. Like in the YouTube series, those who watch it, it's like that clean double close setup, which is typically a reversal pattern, and you have that happening with an engulfing at the extreme of the range. So that was the first kind of signal that printed in my system. And then the other one was the one we wrote about in Technical Roundup, where it was a daily close back above 40K, that 5th of August daily candle. Because if you look just slightly to the left, we swung above it and then closed back below, which kind of looks like a fake out. And fake outs don't usually happen twice. So that daily close on the 5th of August was another sort of re-entry signal. And that's kind of what my system's been telling me. And I wasn't there to execute, which is fine, whatever. There's a real process. I get back to my desk on like around the 5th or 6th of September. So in a couple of weeks, and there is a real prospect that I just have to get to my desk and just market buy back all the exposure that's continued to, that's lacking. That could be a thing. And that's just the price to pay. And I don't really mind, to be honest. Like if my thesis at that point is that we're going to set new all-time highs, I expect at least like 75K, 100K for BTC, et cetera, right?
Yeah.
So if I have to come back and buy in the mid 50s or whatever it is when I get home, that's something I'm comfortable doing. Trading wise, in terms of like Bitcoin levels, I've got that same weekly you've got, which comes out just under 50K. And then I've got like a rough daily level at sort of 53, 54K, that last little consolidation before the first leg of the breakdown. But that's pretty much it, right? It's as we wrote in Technical Roundup, if there's going to be, basically the question you have to answer is there a good chance that the market prints a red candle before all-time high, right? It doesn't matter if you're like a bull thinking you get a pullback or a bear thinking it's a complacency shoulder. The question is there a non-trivial or like a significant chance of a pullback before all-time high? If the answer to that is yes, then you have to think, okay, which areas are like most likely to give rise to that pullback candle? And for me, it's like 50 to 53K, roughly, right? Thereabouts. Mm-hmm. If it doesn't happen there, it's probably not going to happen anywhere. I think people will try to sell the lower high at 60K or whatever, but to me, that's just way too close to all-time high. They'll probably just get blown out as those sideline participants waiting for the lower high essentially get forced back into the market. So it's always tricky with higher lows and lower highs, because if they get too close to the high or too close to the low, it kind of comes to, at that point, the breakdown or the breakout is a magnet in itself, right? Yeah. So there needs to be some sort of space between the low and the higher low and the high and the lower high to still make it valid, but not be so close that a breakdown becomes more likely. So for me, for Bitcoin, yeah, that's 50, 53K-ish. If nothing changes at that point, or if, that area turns into support, whatever, then, what's left, right? You probably just go to all-time high and beyond. So, that I might be forced to just market buy all the exposure that I didn't buy when I get back to my desk on the 6th, and I'd be fine with that. To be honest, like if Bitcoin looks good, I'll probably do my old reliable, which is instead of being long BTC, I'll just be long FTT, which normally just outperforms Bitcoin when the market's bullish and sometimes when it's bearish as well. And that's kind of one of the plays. That's kind of, when people are like spot long Bitcoin exposure or whatever, I just do that. But with FTT, as degen as it sounds, it's been a pretty good trade and served me well kind of in the uptrend. Otherwise, yeah, I think short-term levels, that 49, 50K immediately, 53-ish K at the extreme. And the nearest support is around 45K. If that breaks, then I think we get to do a sort of do or die dip buy at 38 to 40. And then if 38 to 40 fails, then probably complacency shoulder narrative is correct, right? And we get fucked up, which would suck. But it still means you get a really clear trade at 38 to 40, right? If that pullback comes, you buy it. If it works, you hold it to new all-time highs. If it doesn't, take a break. I'm gonna go back on holiday or something. I don't know. I'll book another ticket.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those tricky areas where if there's any place where there's going to be a stitch up, and doesn't even mean complacency shoulder, just like a pullback, it's in the area the market's pushing into right now. So as we've been writing in Technical Roundup, it's probably the worst area for fresh longs, but it doesn't mean you have to short it or fade it outrightly, etc., etc. I think if someone came to me and said, look, I rode the whole thing down from 64K to 29K, and now the market's like in the 50s, and I haven't touched anything, should I take some profit? I mean, I'd generally say it's probably plus EV to pay yourself a little bit there. At least pay your fucking taxes or take your tax money out, like that kind of exposure to allow you to keep clicking without going to jail. So like, I think if you didn't manage anything and you've been on this roller coaster, probably 9 times out of 10, you do some housekeeping in the 50K area, because you just fucking never know what happens. And if there's ever going to be a red candle, it's probably in that type of area. But otherwise, similar to you, the real sort of market trend line in the sand is 38 to 40K. As long as we're above that, and if I get to buy that dip, I'll do it. If that breaks, then fuck off, right? It's just bullshit, like lower high, macro, blah, blah, blah sort of thing. So it's not necessarily an easy area to trade by any means. I think this is the area where your trend, and we've seen a bit of it in shorter time frame price action, where your trend continuation entries on Bitcoin at least become more difficult. That doesn't mean you have to short it outrightly, obviously. So yeah, for me, back to desk 6th of September. If I have to market buy everything, I will. Generally, 45 support, 50s resistance, 38 to 40 is the kind of do or die level that decides the high time frame directional bias.
Mm-hmm. I can agree. I think it's gonna be hilariously obvious once we actually get like into next week, whether like this, like you look at this right now and you're like, okay, this is resistance. If we get a red candle, it's gonna look like this, right? Like just a straight up red candle 1 week towards 38K, right? If we get a green candle next week, it's gonna look like this, and everyone's gonna be saying, okay, this creeped up for so long. Everyone gets liquidated to the, like everyone shorting it gets liquidated, and we obviously go up. And that's going to be obvious in hindsight, right? But right now that's really difficult to tell. I think there's a good chance we get it like one or the other. But for me, it's just like I have no idea which one. So I just do my thing, trade my setups, and once we get that kind of trade and it starts like let's say we get like the green giga chart candle, I mean, and it's back to like buying every single dip and hoping it sticks. And if we get the red candle, it's buy that dip, and if that bottom that you buy like in the 38 to 40K range, like Cred said, isn't the bottom, then get out the fucking
delete your Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, just look for like, I think at that point you look for like 20Ks. And I mean, that's fine, right? You just take that one chance that you get in the 38 to 40Ks if it dips, and maybe it just does something like this, starts creeping up again and then rallies to new all-time high. Or maybe you eat shit, but then at least you only eat shit once, right? If you kind of try to catch like the breakout every time, buy into like the moves up, sell into the moves down, you're going to lose much more than just taking that one trade at support and then just hoping it actually does what you want it to. And I think the same thing is true on the upside, right? Like, it's just that simple. It breaks out. You can buy those dips. If it dips from here, you can buy that dip. If it dips further, I mean, the market seems to be fucked. And that's just how it is. And you get to buy much cheaper, which is also really good. So no real way to lose other than being in complete and utter FOMO mode because you're not in position or you don't like you want to be. And I think if that's kind of where your head's at, you shouldn't probably be trading, right? If you're like, okay, I really want to have like this NFT, this like this amount of Bitcoin or ETH or whatever, then you shouldn't really be trading those. You should just be holding them, I think. So for me, it's just like trade the setups, and the setups have actually been really good. You don't have to take them to completion. For example, my XRP setup, like the completion is 8K sats, which is still like a 3x away from where price is currently at. But even if I get stopped out, right? I mean, if I end this trade with having made like on average like 40% ish, I mean, I'll take that. is what it is, right? And if it
Only on
goes,
crypto Twitter is that a bad trade, you know?
yeah, it's fucking hilarious. I've gotten so much shit for like my recent trading, which have like it's really weird because I've actually like it's been a really good time for me personally. Could have obviously held like stuff longer, could have done this and that, but like not really losing any trades and just like getting a bunch of like these XRP trades in. It's just been really nice. And yeah, crypto Twitter obviously always knows better. And the thing is, like in crypto, there's so many opportunities that like you're obviously gonna be like super proud of yourself if you catch the one thing that moves like 400 or 500%, and I think that's fine. But don't be like too upset if you don't, right? Like, let's say you bought XRP before it moved, you caught like a 50% move, and then your friend took like a 100% move. I've seen people get really angry about that, but that's just coming from like a super shitty mindset, right? Just be happy with like the setups that you take, and with what you get, basically. Because,
Well, like you didn't sell the bottom, pat yourself on the back. Like even stuff like that, you know?
yeah, because like people like what I see usually is that people see others making like insane gains on this and that coin, right? Because there's a million people on crypto Twitter, and then you see like a bunch obviously get the right ones. And then they're like, oh shit, I should have done this too. I only made like 10, 15, 20% in the last couple of days. And then they try to up their leverage, try to buy shittier coins, that kind of stuff, and they start losing. And that's just not worth it. Just play the game like you know how to play it, and then just take those easy wins, and they're gonna add up real fast. So that's my kind of advice. Don't be like too like when you see these P&L sheets of people that trade like $50 into like 10K. I'm always sitting there being like, yeah, I mean, that isn't particularly hard to do if you do it a couple times, right? If you just get liquidated 10 times and then do it like over and over and over again, put in a lot of time, you probably have like a shitty wage at that point, right? Let's say you trade a month full time to kind of run up a challenge account to flex on people. Sounds like a giant waste of time for me. But what you're gonna be seeing as like someone that sees it from the outside is like, okay, this guy made so much money. Why didn't I do it? What you don't know is that like 100 people tried that in that same position. This one guy maybe tried it 100 times as well. And it's just not really good trading for the most part. And if you start out with shitty trading, even if you make it, you're gonna unmake it real fast. Because then, like, if you're shitty at something and you're really lucky and you win, you shouldn't probably continue being shitty at it, because then you're just gonna give back everything that you've gained.
Amen. I want to ask kind of on Bitcoin technicals quickly before we move on.
Yeah.
When does complacency shoulder get invalidated for you? Has it already been invalidated?
It
Where's the kind of
has.
extreme?
Like for me, and it's something I've talked about. I think in private we've talked about it. I don't know if I've talked about it on stream. I probably have because I just talk a lot. But for me, the complacency idea was invalidated with this close, but not in the sense that I'm not like expecting it anymore, or if I think like it's impossible. I just think like playing it as a complacency shoulder ever since we broke out above 40K again is just a shitty move, right? Because at that point, where the fuck do you get back in after your complacency theory has been invalidated, right? Let's say we get a
59.99.
yeah, like let's say we get a green candle like this above resistance, right? Tomorrow or the day after, or like in like a 3-day candle like this. Where the fuck do you buy back in? Like you're not gonna get an entry, right? So for me, given that we just had like the strength above like the range, that was basically the moment where it's like, okay, if you're betting on complacency, bet if we start losing that level again. And that's still my thesis. Like you want to be, if this goes back below 40K, I'm very, very certain that this was the complacency shoulder, right? But I don't mind like missing out that first bit. I don't really care. I want to kind of capture the meat of the move. And I think at that point, if this is the complacency shoulder, we're going to go much lower. And then I don't really care about these 10K. And I said that like when the move from where we were to like 40K was just 2K wide, right? Back like at 42K, I said the same thing. Was like, okay, I don't care about the first 2K. I still don't care about the first 10K. And if this goes back above 50K, I'm still gonna say I don't think there's a good reason to bet on the complacency shoulder until we start losing some of these supports again. So for me, theory technically hasn't been invalidated. I still think like 50K is probably the best spot to kind of bet on a complacency shoulder. But me personally, I think I'm only gonna say, okay, this is the complacency shoulder if we start losing 40K, and I'm fine with that. Don't really care about like the missed 10K.
Does ETH have any resistance left? ETH USD?
Yeah, I mean ETH USD is at the prime area for a complacency bounce. Like look at this. This is usually where you get it. But same with ETH. I think if you want to bet on like bearishness and like in general downwards momentum, do it below 2.3K. I think at that point, like 2.7 if you're aggressive, 2.3 if you're less so. I think if we start heading lower again, below 2.3, you're gonna be able to buy much lower. Like I'd be surprised if we go below 2.3K if we didn't go to $800. But until that happens, like aiming for these levels seems completely out of touch. So for me, it's like, do you really care about this like 20-30% move if you can care about it for this like 60% move? And I think like that's just seems like an easy kind of trade-off. I don't think this support is going to hold again if we get there, this 1.7K support. But until we break supports, I'm not going to say this is the complacency bounce. I'm going to say it could be, but I wouldn't want to be positioning for it. Like back in 17, 18, I shorted all of like these setups for Bitcoin right now. In 17, 18, I would have shorted. Same for ETH. Nowadays, I'm much more content with just taking it as it comes and then just playing.
Sorry, I didn't mean to COVID. I thought I was muted. My bad. Yeah, I mean, the argument you're making is really interesting. Essentially, it could be complacency, but you get proof later below support, and it doesn't matter that it's later because if the proof is there, that means we're going way lower. So you're not really giving up that much in terms of relative risk reward. That makes sense.
Yeah. And it kind of insures yourself against yourself being like in full cope land, because let's say it goes to 60K, then you can start talking about like SFPs above 60K, and then it goes to 70, and you can say, okay, this was the first sign of weakness, and we're building a bear diff. And I mean, let's say we go to 70K. People are going to talk about like a bear diff from here to here. And then like there's a million reasons and like a million ways in which you could cope yourself out of like establishing your position again. Or in general, like even thinking about this actually being bullish. And I think that's not something that like you want to have your head stuck in. Much rather just make sure that you're trading this properly. And I think there's a good way to trade it, which I've just outlined.
I want to ask you about layer ones. There's AVAX Avalanche protocol is mooning. And there's a lot of talk about like, Avalanche DeFi and the fact that there's a bridge and that you can bridge assets now, and that's the catalyst, etc. I'm not fully sold on the narrative. My opinion is slightly different. That essentially you had a bunch of layer one catalysts that were stacked at the same time. Cardano, Solana all-time high, Terra all-time high, etc. All the while, ETH layer 2 rollout was quite slow and people got bored, essentially. And so market was looking for risk in layer 1s, which weren't ETH. And, just so happened, I think there was also like quite a big yield farming opportunity set up in Avalanche as well. It just kind of stars aligned perfectly to gamble on layer 1s. And, people just go out further on the risk curve and pick up the ones which are lower market cap for bigger gains. Have you traded any of these or any of them in your radar? What do you think of this kind of L1 moon mission?
I gotta say, like, I've been kind of like just living life. I've not been like, I didn't even know AVAX existed until like today or yesterday when I saw it chilled like briefly on Twitter. I'm not really like into like too much of this like sphere of like, the entire altcoin sphere just eludes me these days. Like I just buy like the ones I know.
Okay,
like, the
Don
ones we
Alt.
talk about. Yeah. I mean, it's just like I'm getting older. I don't have the time to kind of research everything, or like I don't want to take the time to research everything. Just much rather do whatever I want to, which is definitely not sitting there.
Man, this is the real complacency shoulder. It's Donald's like altcoin research habits.
Yeah, 100%. Like I mean, for the people that don't know, like in 16, 17, 18, basically, I was just sitting there, like literally writing lists on like the top 200 market caps, writing down what they did, like doing all of that crap. And that actually made me a shitload of money back then. Like that was like one of the best things I've done for myself. It's just even then I realized that it was too much work for me and I wasn't really interested in it. Like reading that, I can understand some of it. I can kind of use that information to my advantage, but it's like the most boring stuff I've ever done. And I mean, I've studied boring shit in university, so I'm kind of used to like that. But
I mean, dude, you studied like rocks in university. Why didn't you buy these ETH rock NFTs? I really thought you'd be able to see the value.
True. Yeah, just missed
Fucking
the value,
useless degree, dude.
Yeah, thank you very much. But yeah, so like for me, it's just like I get incredibly bored doing it. But then again, it was really important for my development and kind of how like my trading went back in those years.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. I think you should be doing it. It's just something that I'm not really interested in anymore. But yeah, going back to like this, like technical wise, there wasn't really anything that gave like good reason for it to pump. It's probably just like fundamentally like the moment narrative shifts. Oh, actually, like there's on the USD pair is actually pretty nice level. But yeah, I mean, with these like layer ones, whenever you see like something like this, and you don't have a setup on the particularly like leading one, worst comes to worst, you go to like a non-leading one, look if there's a setup there that has like the same narrative going for it, and then you just pray and do that, or you just buy into the pump. It's all you can do. But for me, like I'm not going to buy into like this kind of stuff. I have no idea what it does. I have no interest in knowing. Which I mean,
fair enough.
Yeah, it's just rich of me to say, but it's just like for me, it's just like whatever.
Final question: do you have a view on like ETH BTC/BTC dominance? There's been some chatter about
BTC dominance.
Yeah, like high time frame Bitcoin breakouts, going to new call altcoins, etc., and just Bitcoin dominance, or even just ETH BTC if you think that's a useful proxy. Do you think like Bitcoin's going to lead the next move, and it's either way? Like
yeah, 100%. I think we are like with Bitcoin being at 50K. If this breaks out to the upside, altcoin Bitcoin pairs are going to take a huge shit. That's like I said, if this breaks to the upside in altcoins, like let's say Bitcoin breaks to the upside with like a 10% candle to the upside, which I think makes sense if it does break out to the upside here, right? Like getting an immediate like 10% candle makes a lot of sense to me, given this is the best resistance on the chart, right? So people are going to short it. There's a good chance it goes down because of that, but there's also like a really good chance that if we break through it, it's actually going to be violent, right? So I think if that happens, a good chance is actually that these altcoins aren't gonna gain in Bitcoin and in USD pairs. I think there's a good chance that they're gonna stay even in USD pairs and then actually go down quite a bit in Bitcoin pairs. If that happens, I'm gonna be looking to buy the dips on some of them that I consider strong. If we break to the downside, I'm not gonna buy the first dip. I'm gonna be waiting for basically a really, really nasty dip, which is gonna be to like 50% on some of these.
And what would you buy? What are your do you have like an altcoin dip watch list, at least in your head?
Yeah, I mean, you sent me this a while ago. I really like it.
Did I send you what?
This like layer one list. There's a bunch of stuff in there. So there's a bunch of stuff that I'm watching in like DeFi space, which I'm not entirely sold on, but like if there's a good setup, I'm gonna be buying it. Curve been looking really good lately, and like there's a bunch of stuff that I'm looking at, but it's not necessarily like I want to see how they perform when they're dumping, if they're dumping, right? So like let's say you see XRP be like dumping like less so than like ADA, for example, and ADA has been one of the stronger movers. I know that there's a bunch of people sitting there buying the XRP dip, and I want to be one of them. And the opposite is obviously true as well. And that's kind of something I want to look for more than, okay, are they strong right now? I want to see like how strong do they perform during the dip. But yeah, everything that's moving like in big percentages, like if I hadn't been, like I've been pretty much out all day, every day, I would write them down right now, like the ones that I see that are
Sol,
particularly strong.
Luna,
Yeah, exactly.
Doge,
Doge, not so much.
AVAX. Well, still Doge. 'Cause Doge. FTT.
Yeah.
What else have I missed? That's like a few of them at least.
Yeah, I mean, you can even talk about BNB if you want to. Like,
Yeah.
BNB had like its black swan as well, and I'm actually surprised that it's holding so well. Like, this is actually pretty nutty, considering how bad like the news cycle was. But yeah, like that kind of stuff. You look at what has been strong before and what is strong during the dip, and then you just pull the trigger if you get like a good setup. But yeah, like I said, so the Bitcoin pairs I think are gonna go down regardless of whether this breaks up or down. The thing is, the longer this chills at resistance, the more you can kind of squeeze out of some of the altcoins. But as you can see right now, for example, Bitcoin's down 0.5% on the day, and the altcoins are down like 4, 5, 6 times that, which isn't really big.
I can't believe it. We fell for it.
Yeah, but it's like it's the altcoins haven't been particularly strong in the last few days, and I think that's like the reason why that is so is because Bitcoin's just approaching this area where it's either going to nuke really hard or pump really hard, and no one wants to be in altcoins during any of that. So there you go.
Yeah, nice one, Duck. I think that's a lot of ground covered.
Yeah. Oh, someone asked me like when would I be buying back a while ago, and I've actually like bought back, and we talked about this on like previous streams. I bought a bunch back at 40k, not as much as I'd like to. But more than plenty for me. Put that all into altcoins, sold some of them, so like didn't buy as much as I wanted to back then, and sold some of that back into USD on some of the altcoins, but still have like plenty for me to be happy with it. And if I wanted to buy back in general, like if this dumps, like Cred said earlier, 40k, that's kind of like the area where I want to be buying dips.
There you go. My answer is I'm getting back to my desk in like 2 weeks. I'm either just going to force buy everything back, expecting double bubble, or 38.40 and pray. I don't really mind buying back if I've got whatever confirmation. That'll be fun, you know. Come on holiday, buy everything back. The market doubles, happy days. So you know, it's not. I've been threatened with worse in my life. I'll say that much.
Yeah, and if it doesn't dump, I mean, I have a bunch that I'm gonna be very happy with because it's gonna go up. I think my XRP is gonna go up quite a bit if it. Like, I think the XRP USD chart, like I said, is going to go sideways. Bitcoin pair is going to dump, and I'm going to buy a bunch more on the Bitcoin pair again and take advantage of that. And I think at that point, if we're going into the super cycle, you might actually get like some crazy targets on some of the altcoins and some on like on Bitcoin as well. If it just keeps on running, it's going to be nuts. But I wouldn't want to bet long right now. Like that seems crazy to me too, into this resistance. So
yeah, 50k, interesting. I've got like 50 and I've got level 53, whatever, that type of area. Weekly closes around 50k if you want to take it that way. Also, I always go on holiday, like non-short holidays during key market inflection points. So like the 29k failed breakdown, I was away. And the other one I remember was the weekly close through like 11.8 or whatever that was, 11.5.
Yeah.
When we closed at 13k, I was away for like 2 weeks there as well and had to FOMO back into the trend. So I think I should just, instead of trying to trade this shit with horizontals and derivatives data, whatever, I just like submit my fucking travel calendar to some algorithm and it'll just trade for me when I'm away. You basically long when I don't have access to my accounts and you make a lot of money. So there's an income stream for me. Worst comes to worst, I'll just tell people when I'm going on holiday and they can be rich by trading when I can't trade.
Yeah, I mean, it's been weirdly profitable trade every time actually.
Yeah,
it's the same as like what I had when I went on holidays back in 18, right? Every time I went on holiday it was at the top and then it nuked during my holiday, and the moment I got back that was basically the bottom every time. I was just like, what the fuck, how does that keep happening? And then people actually took notice and actually traded off of it for a while, which was hilarious, and then they got blown the fuck out. I don't know remember when. I think it was like I was on holiday somewhere Oh no, I was on holiday in February, March actually. Yeah.
So I know when to break into your house now. Good to know.
Shit.
All right.
Yeah. When
Cool,
the
man.
market's dumping,
That's all from
basically.
us, right?
Yeah, I think so. I
Great.
think we've covered plenty.
We've covered plenty. We'll have a podcast guest for you next week, hopefully, if people respond to us. That'll be cool. But that's all we've got for Friday. Thank you, FTX, formerly Blockfolio, FTX app on the App Store, not FTX Pro, for being our partners on Technical Roundup. Remember to go to trletter.com to get our weekly newsletter. It trades better than both of us, so go read it and trade better than both of us. That's all we've got for now, and we'll see you next week. Duck, have a good weekend. I know you will, though.
Same to you. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.